Hey there viewers, my name is Torinski and welcome back to another DCSS Sunday. Today we're going to be jumping right back into where we left things off with our friend here, Gnoll model. Things have been going a lot better than our first couple attempts going through with the Gnoll here, and we were definitely seeing a decent amount of success, and hopefully we can keep that up as we jump back into things here and see if we can't pick up where we left off. We're doing pretty well on a consumable front here, just looking at our inventory in general. A whole lot of potions, a decent number of scrolls as well, 10 blinking scrolls. Wow, I actually kind of forgot about that even as I was mentioning that we're in a decent position here. 5 scrolls of fear as well, that should come in handy. Things are looking half decent in that regard. There was the scroll of acquirement too that we had been waiting to see what we wanted to bring out from this. We were leaning towards the Scarf of Resistance, I believe, when we were last here, but kind of holding off and letting it sit for the time being because we were actively switching off between so many different curse replacements, I guess, to put it most simply, because as a worshipper of Ashen Zari, we want to keep ourselves buffed up as much as we can by our deities' skill bonuses, and we definitely were trying our best to just switch off one equipment at a time here. What do we even acquire? Indeed, Safid, perfect timing. But yeah, I was thinking we'd end up going Scarf of Resistance, though to be fair, that was before we finally got things settled and sorted a little bit on the Resistances front, because for the longest time we were lacking in pretty much every department here, and then near the end of last Sunday we finally got things figured out a little bit in that regard, so that might change our decisions, even though I guess not necessarily too much, seeing as how our current necklace I'm more happy with than this option here. Hunting Sling of Flame, I don't think so, especially since we're cursing our weapon, bounding it to ourselves, as well as gold in general. We have a decent amount on us, and in fact, yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that we probably should go and buy at some point here, okay? I mean, I guess we don't need another scroll of blinking immediately. If there's a situation that takes 11 scrolls of blinking to get out of, probably okay with just dying to whatever that is anyway. Or not necessarily on our side, but whoever killed us in that regard would probably deserve the victory. Let's see, on the magic mapping front, we should be good for now as well, even though we can definitely go back and buy those just to make sure we can map out Orb of Zot when we get there, something like that. And then last but not least, let's take a look at where we've been and what we've done, because we managed to explore most of our areas. I think we finished Elf completely. And we're just, done the 3rd floor of depths here, so we had our first two runes acquired, and we just had to start thinking about where we might want to go for that 3rd one. We can at least use the last bit of depths here to kind of finagle that out and decide on what we want to do, even though off camera during the week here, I was thinking about vaults, because we have the spellcasting capabilities in order to do so, and therefore it might be a bit easier, especially since slime, I guess if we had like ignition up and castable, but that's not looking like a great possibility. It's hard to get the level 8 and level 9 spells online, especially if they aren't cross school, but still not totally impossible, and we'll have to see where the game takes us. Still no our poison, unfortunately not innately, but fortunately we do have statue form, which is how we've been getting by defensively in general, even without that necessary resistance, as long as we remember starting off on the run again today that I need to make sure that's toggled on for pretty much every fight. I was going to say for most fights, or for fights that involve poison, but the AC bonuses have definitely been getting us through this. I do depth support vaults. You always found the first 4 vaults easier. I go back and forth for sure. I think I officially, at least based on what I've said in the past, do agree with you there, where I do find vaults easier, especially since with the roomed sections and a lot of hallways and stuff, you're generally not getting surrounded quite as often as a lot of the depths areas. But I think last session we were just flying by the seat of our pants at the end of the day there, and just wanted to get a few more floors done before the end, so we decided on vaults, or on depths rather. But yeah, Coville, I definitely would agree with you in general that I find vaults 1 through 4 to be generally preferable, at least for the most part. And even in that regard, I guess we could head up there now. Maybe I'll check out Depths 4, peek in, see how it's feeling, see how it's doing. And then we can always make some runtime decisions. I just want to make one last check here. Currently our only non-bound equipment is our sword and one of our rings. The one ring, it's nice to be able to switch off between a couple of things here, get a little bit more cold resistance if need be. But I think the blade is what we were thinking of cursing next, even though I wasn't quite able to make up my mind. I love this sword so much for the +10 int alone, because that will make it possible for us to cast those level 8 spells a little bit sooner than otherwise possible. But the slow effect here can be absolutely debilitating in the worst situations. So maybe we will end up sticking with the ADOM Katana, really nice base damage, and we're definitely swinging it at minimum delay already, so that's nice on its own. And hey Katra Burenar, how's it going? Nice to see you here. Not much is up as we're just starting out, trying our best to not immediately pilot this run directly into the ground, but we should be good, especially since I remember our Gnoll being decently powerful. The second last thing here that we'll do, or take a look at, is just where all of our spells are sitting right now, so I can remember which of my macro keys will be most optimally used here. Some Mana Viper is always nice. Ogleb's was a run saver for the start here in statue form. The clarity on the katana is redundant with Ash 2, unfortunately, so yeah. So if we find a better weapon, fingers crossed for that. We're definitely happy to switch out. Fortunately, I wasn't a big fan of the burglary melee curse here, so we have a bit of time, see what the game hands us, and see where we stand. So without further ado, I guess let's get into this a little bit here. Almost should have just gone statue form before even heading down, but we should be alright in the long run. Oh, definitely, yes, I will still summon, even with the toxic radiation. Wait, why are you so afraid? Does this thing fears, doesn't it? Causes fear, but we're completely immune to it. Makes sense. It's going good. You randomly stumbled upon my videos one day, and you've seen that I've been binging, or you've been binging my Every Species playthrough. Glad to finally catch a stream. Happy to have you here as well. Thank you so much for watching videos in general, for coming out here and joining us all live. Definitely have had a whole lot of fun with the series in general here. But I'm just gonna take this nice and slow, making sure that I don't run myself into any horrifying situations. We are fortunately a lot better off in this fight than we used to be, seeing as how for the longest time here, fire and ice giants were absolutely brutal without the requisite resistances in order to take out at least half that damage. But as we can see there, not nearly as bad in this day and age here, fortunately. Hello, friend. Not used to being a stealthy boy here, but I'll take it. One of the perks of being a Gnoll, as it were. Okie dokie, here we go. No real hallways for us to fight yet, and no, that's definitely what would be preferable. Oh, wait. As I said so, there's a pseudo hallway here. They'll start to surround me, probably, so maybe we'll just go to the old classic move here and do some stair dancing shenanigans. Even if we can bring them up here, we've at least explored an entire level, so we can always drag them back to a more feasible hallway, even if they do surround us like this on the bottom side. Okie dokie, what is the closest hallway? Top right is not that much closer than bottom left, I guess. So let's just start heading down. These buddies are all a little bit quick, getting the occasional attack in, but that is all good. We can do this the old-fashioned way. A nice, tightly knit hallway, no problems whatsoever. Fortunate that the shapeshifter turned into a black bear right as we fought them as well. Love to see it. Ooh, and a treasure trove. What are you taking today? A +7 demon trident. It might be possible for us to get without too much trouble. As long as we can find a demon trident. We've been using different kinds of artifacts our entire run so far. So we most likely, oops, statue form, very important. Let's get that AC. But we're very likely to be able to do so. using up all the enchant scrolls that we've been saving up over the course of our journey so far. And, you know, when everyone's lining up like this, it's probably about time we did a little bit of piercing damage action, take some of the stress off of our backs here, and see how it goes. And I do especially love it if the Troll Shaman get in on this as well, seeing as how they start miting and hasting each other. It can be a bit of a pain in the rear, but that should just about do it for us here. Good start to the day. And ideally, we'll be able to find ourselves some treasure. This looks like a little bit of a mini treasure vault area. Don't need a Ring of Flight, don't need poison darts. Ooh, every spellbook. Manifold Assault. Now that's interesting. I haven't had a good opportunity yet since the spell was brought into existence to try out Manifold Assault. But it's fully castable, and we are a bit of a hybrid character, as it were. I'm tempted to try this out just in general. I guess we can do a quick search with Control F for Amnesia. Oops, Amnesia. 9 scrolls. Okay, so yeah, we definitely have enough backup options here that we could always forget it if it doesn't work out. And I don't think there are any spells that I desperately need right now, especially since we do have 16 spell levels, so decent amount. And Control F Trident. I should actually. There's a decent chance we've seen a Demon Trident in one of the Hell Buddy packs. Let's try it out, shall we? We can even look up Demon Trident here. Oh, and it's already +2. You know what? Let's take a little detour. It's even just right back where we started our day today. Would you look at that? So, what can I temporarily, at the very least, throw away here? Hum-de-dum. I guess could just drop the sword, and I can rethink that later if I really am desperate to try it out. And then let's see, if we look up enchant weapon, we should have a decent number here. So we needed a +7 trident, so we'll need to use 5 of these. That leaves us with 3. And I'm just doing the mental calculus here because there's a chance that we just want like an electric branded weapon or something at the end of the game if we don't find a really solid artifact, but we can at least have a good start still to the enchantment if we do end up taking that route. And if not, Autumn Katana, even with the redundancy of the clarity, I do find is a pretty solid weapon for the late game. It has a really nice base damage and definitely holds up well between that and its attack speed. So do you want, let's do a little bit of a detour. It's nice because it also gets us warmed up a little bit in a stress-free environment as we just walk around, get myself into that headspace that the game so often requires here. And we'll just read all those bad boys, do another search here, and let's just take these one by one, closest to furthest, shall we? It's not often that a treasure trove actually has things that are exceptionally useful, but there's always the chance that it even has the weapon that we've been pontificating about this whole time. So, let's check it out, shall we? Should have also double checked that it was indeed a +7 Demon Trident, but I was pretty sure, right? Oops, Treasure Trove does not do it. Can I just do treasure? Perfect. Because it's a trove of treasure, not a treasure trove. And before Wyrmbane, one can only hope. It's been a long while since I had a solid run that used Wyrmbane. But for here, let's just drop some stuff, shall we? Should be all just temporary inventory considerations here, but I definitely want to be able to take out anything and everything that we find in the treasure vault. That should be good. Let's try it out. Yes, we do indeed want to give the item. It is a weapons vault. Not seeing anything completely familiar off the bat here, but we can definitely take a look. +6 Spear of Pain. Not horrible, but not exactly what we're looking for. Ooh, the Lagitang of Treasure Trove. Fitting. Also has some resistances, but probably not what we're going for. We do really enjoy our shield here. Gonna try and keep that buddy around. Demon Whip of Indomitability. Unfortunately, not great. Can pick it up though, just in case we're really desperate for some RF later on in the game here. We can check that out. The +10 Battle Axe of Nightmares. Unfortunately, much like the Lagitang, not quite as feasible, just due to the fact that we are looking to keep the shield around. +6 Evening Star of Protection. I'm gonna pick this up just because the Evening Stars are a pretty solid weapon, but not likely they'll be taking this, and probably wouldn't keep it as a protection brand. We'd probably burn a few branding scrolls to try and get something interesting out of that. Imperial Halberd, also not quite what we're looking for, so unfortunately, not looking great. But that's what we expect from these treasure troves, right? It's always a bit of a Hail Mary when you're actually hoping for something to show up. Oh geez, nose is so itchy at the start of the stream. Perfect timing for that. But okie dokie. I think that's all I'm gonna steal out of here. Maybe just for funsies. I'll take out the Lagitang, the Battle Axe. All the artifacts can just come outside with me. Get thrown a pile on the ground, but there we go. Sorry, well, all it really cost us was some Zot Clock. Yeah, definitely not the end of the world here whatsoever. We could try out using something like our crossbow. Again, one of the beautiful things about playing as a Gnoll is that we are able to wear and use whatever we find. And at the moment, we are not actively using a bound weapon, so we could try and use some ranged, but for the most part I've been happy just with throwing as kind of our backup ranged option behind magic. We can figure out everything else as we go. The flame whip can also go down for now, and there we go. Let's continue our journey. Treasure trove explored. Unfortunately, a little disappointing, but not the end of the world. Oh, hello, Louise. I was not paying attention to you walk up. Good thing I have ridiculous willpower, so never a danger that will be banished out of the blue. And it is definitely a little bit later than I'm used to seeing Louise, so I think we're in a pretty decent spot to take this lady on. Even has a +2 tower shield if we do end up getting our shield score high enough. I think I'm going to back up a bit as we start to drag more and more combatants into the nearby area, and perfect. Most of them being taken out by a mixture of our poison and our summons there, so you love to see it. Then we can come in and mop up the rest here. Perfect. Oh, would you look at that? Oh right, I guess this one's a branded trident, so it wouldn't have quite worked for the gate. So scratch everything I was about to say. We can just be happy that everything is going pretty straightforwardly at the very least. Resistance to negative energy, or as I like to phrase it, our own positive energy, is definitely strong enough to take on a Shadow Dragon without too much concern here. And we'll just keep it rolling. Ooh, another spellbook. The Curse of Companions in Melee Combat is what's offered to us next. So, again, Ashinzari seems really dead set on this melee combat thing. But I don't need that anymore, friend. I'm really looking for something that will boost us in these later sections of the game. Since we're already past the minimum delay on our weapon, it's not really too important for us to get that going. God, hello. The Earth Shamans here, or mages, as it were, shouldn't LRD us with enemies be around, or other enemies being around us, I should say. Trying to talk and not doing a great job, but doesn't mean we're scot-free here, and I would like to get that brain dead as soon as possible. In fact, probably what I should have done here was use some piercing magic, throwing, whatever it takes to take out that brain before we got into that perilous predicament. But there we go. We've sorted things out a little bit. We are obviously a bit slower than our enemies, just due to our statue form here. But still, I think worth it to retreat a bit, make sure that we don't get surrounded, and we do have the ability to blink the heck out of here, if need be. You feel like her curses have a pattern to them, but you don't know what it is. Yeah, I definitely haven't played enough Ash and Sari to have a good handle whatsoever on the minutia of the deity, but that is interesting to hear. We'll have to see what else shows up here. Man, you want some silver javelins? Don't we always? As long as I have training for throwing, I'm actively always on the lookout for said javelins. Especially by the time we get to Zot, it's really nice for just sniping orbs of fire. Okie dokie, let's get some more AoE going here. Is there anything else? I guess, ooh, we haven't yet tried Manifold Assault. So let's just try hitting everything on screen, shall we? Not too bad. Definitely allows us to get a little bit more AoE down than we otherwise might have been able to. Trying to push myself a little bit here, but that's always risky because that's how you end up taking way more damage in a single turn than you thought was possible and dying a horrific death. But ideally, we would like to save some of our consumables here. I'm trying to debate now if one more health potion just to kind of get us over this initial warm-up period where I'm getting back into the run and figuring out how far we can push the character probably is for the best. So I think I will happily drink one more potion here. We'll do one more Manifold Assault, and then we'll finish the fight off. So it doesn't look like we would have needed to, but at the end of the day, always better safe than sorry. I'm happy to just be alive here. You don't know, you think it's time to bug out and not risk it? 10 blinks, 10. See, in another lifetime, I definitely would have met my match there and been exceptionally embarrassed to see your comment, but in this one situation we were able to get through without too much trouble. So it definitely is never a bad idea to retreat out of a horrible situation like that. And there we go, one of the few times that we're not in statue form that it actually is beneficial to us, and we're able to use that to its greatest extent here. And here goes. Should be fine against just one of you buddies, even though things can always go poorly with a couple of bad rolls. And we find the Ring of the Mage. So I believe this is an unrandart. And Wizarding Willpower, which we don't really need in +3. I mean, it's good to know this is around, because if we do find a ton of really solid level 8, level 9 spells, this is something that might get us over the hump that we're normally struggling against with the Gnoll, and be useful. You swear that you see that ring in every game lately? It's funny how things seem to follow patterns like that. There'll be like 10 games in a row where you'll always come across the same unrandarts each time, and on the flip side of things, there are randarts that I've never seen in my 12 years of playing the game on and off. Specifically, Gyre Gimbal, even though it's not the best randart in the game, or unrandart I should say, it's so thematically fun, and so I've always wanted to find those in a game. Specifically, I've always wanted to have a Formicid that had, 2 quick blades in 2 hands and giant ass shield in the other, but just never shown up for me as it is. It's great for you because you're a chronic Octopode player. That is definitely ideal. I feel like with a lot of the Octopodes I've played recently, I've had some very unfortunate luck with rings. I don't know if this was worth it whatsoever. I don't really need the money, do I? Oh well. I guess not really dangerous either, as long as I'm being careful and not just blindly running into flame clouds left and right here. There we go. Definitely fitting right back into our role here. Remembering just how strong our Gnoll model here was, while also being made aware of some of the limitations in the close call that we had just a couple minutes ago. So it's a nice balance, all things considered. Probably exactly what we could have hoped for in the first place. Okay, we definitely need resistance to poison if we're going to start facing a few Draconians here. I also wanted to check there. We are hitting a sleeping enemy, which means we get the accuracy bonus. Doesn't look like it counts as a backstab with Manifold Assault, which is definitely fair and makes sense, but still a bit of a shame. So Annihilators, you're the ones with just all the heavy hitters. Perfect. Well, let's bring in some friends of our own, and then can share the fight a little bit here. I'm also gonna radiate our toxicity like we love to do, and let us, I guess, start with a throw. Rather they come to us and clog up this little single gap hallway. Essentially ideal. Not so much when the Annihilator does a bit of a sneaky move here and comes around the backside, but let's hit them once with Magma, then maybe a couple Manifold Assaults. Or we just can reflect their own Crystal Spears into them. That's a more fun way to do it, actually. Thanks, game. And against Spriggans, we'll definitely try and get some poison going, just so that we have the greater chance of getting them killed. Anything with high evasion that's susceptible to poison is most definitely in our wheelhouse. And perfect. Not too bad. We've even already come across the entrance to Zot here and didn't have an absolute nightmare of a time trying to fight through it. Let's let those friends do a bit of the softening up for us, and then we can retreat back to our corridor again, following the classic rules of engagement for this game. Also wasn't in statue form, which could have led to a couple of bad hits there, but all is well. It ends well here. And I'd like it if nobody stepped in this alarm trap, so let's try and avoid that as best we can. It's kind of nice fighting an ice and fire giant. I keep saying ice when it's frost. Gotta get the nomenclature right with monsters. Because for all I know, there is an ice giant out there that's a totally different thing. But what I was gonna say is that it's nice facing the two of them together, because they'll definitely be inhibited a bit by trying their very best not to take each other out. I was wondering why there was just a solo slime, but that solves the mystery. Shapeshifters always tricking me from my normal mindsets and frames that I go by. But still not a care in the world here. Just continue on. Should also engage a little bit from beyond here. We have a decent number of ranged options in general, but we also have our reflective ego, which is absolutely fantastic for taking out anything that lobs giant old rocks at us. The dungeon is such a wonderful multicultural society, dead set on killing you alone, right? It's nice to see that something brings everybody together here. Even if it is my demise, well, sometimes sacrifices must be made for the greater good of the dungeon. I'm just glad that everyone won't be torn apart on our exit here. In fact, maybe everyone will unite together with me once they realize that Zot no longer has control over them. Does Zot rule by fear? Or is it a more mutual agreement of some kind? These are the questions we must ask ourselves to get to the bottom of the great mystery surrounding the dungeon. Ashen'Zari invites us to partake in a vision and a curse of introspection and evocations. So now this is something I'm more interested in, Ashen'Zari. Why do you have to tempt me so? Because this would give us fighting and spellcasting up to a really nice round number. We have a decent number of introspection buffs right now. I mean, ideally, we were hoping for something more on the elemental magic side, but introspection and evocations, I'm always a big fan of. Ignition, great song, can't listen to it anymore. I agree on both counts. No, it's bad how catchy that song is. Somebody needs to do a completely remixed version of it that we can then appreciate again without having to worry about the morality of the situation. But speaking of, let's check out Ignition here and see how our spellcasting chances are. Ooh, only 26. So that's definitely looking like a viable option for us in the near future here, which I love to see. That opens me up to potentially still be able to do Vaults 5 if that's what we so desire, but even Slime becomes way more straightforward with Ignition in the bank here, seeing as how all the extra slimes being spawned out of the Royal Jelly become fodder for increased damage, as it were. So that's awesome. Definitely happy to see that. And seeing that it's so low also gives me a little bit more will or desire to potentially take this curse that we have offered to us. Because if we don't need the extra elemental boost in order to cast Ignition, then I might just be good for the 3-rune run. And instead we can go for the more defensive introspection as well as evocation, which is absolutely a fun time. All the acid clouds from Condense Your Bane is the name of the game. The last question that it comes to, of course, is, do I want to bind the Autumn Katana? In general, I'm happy to be using it for the near future. It's awesome. The only issue is, if we ever come to a situation where we want to change out of it, we have to break it. It gets the fragile status. But I think at the end of the day, I'm willing to take that. It's going to take a decently powerful item in order for me to actively want to switch out of it. And if it's a powerful enough item to do so, then it's an easy decision, right? The only issue is if we end up having to use a weapon slot for resistances, but I think we can burn that bridge when we come to it. Ignition is so fun when you're in open room full of bad guys. It's just chain reaction explosions. Indeed, I love, in general, taking off force mores with like RC edits and stuff like that. So that is just to say that when the game prompts you to press a button to give the next list of things, it's always tempting to take that off because you are able to with those edits. But Ignition in a giant room of baddies is actually one reason why I love having it around. Because at the end of the day, I kind of want to see how much havoc I'm wreaking as I start blasting that around. Okay, let's take you friends back a little bit here and see how that goes. Hey TPD, how's it going? Thank you so much for the 2nd month in a row of subscription here. I appreciate it a whole bunch, and it is awesome to see you again. Hope you've been having a fantastic time recently. And as I said, very nice to see you again. You're hopefully coming in at the perfect time to maybe see us have some success with our Gnoll here. Guess I shouldn't talk too highly of it yet, just in case I jinx myself to some extent or another. Long time no see, been busy and missing the stream? Yeah, of course, no worries whatsoever. If you ever have missed something, I'm sure you're doing great things in your own life. And I'm just happy to catch up with you here in the future. You trying to catch up with the YouTube VODs? Thanks for putting those up. Of course, yeah, no problem whatsoever. And thank you so much for watching on that side of things. Always appreciate that as well. Okay, let's do a couple manifold assaults here, see how that goes. I'm also going to keep the poison aura coming just for the high evasion critters that we're facing right now. I don't love the... I always want to say Wrath of Math, but it's definitely the Moth of Wrath. Don't love seeing that though, especially since it just enraged this Blade Master in front of us, who's just going to be putting out a ridiculous amount of damage overall. Just taking a look at our magic points, kind of debating where we're at here. I think we can definitely forge another Manifold Assault, see where that gets us. The poison will almost definitely take out some of these threats in the near future here, so probably don't have to worry so much about beating a full retreat, even though who knows what else is going to come out of this chamber up ahead. So let's throw out another Manifold Assault. Trying to debate when is the right time to start retreating, because I was hoping this Blade Master would get a few less hits on us. For the most part, we should be in a half decent spot. Even if the slimes come in, that's fine. The end can hit pretty hard, for sure, don't get me wrong. Also have a +4 Quick Blade on the way. Is this a Tengu Warrior? Just a Warrior, so that side of things isn't so bad. I'm going to throw out another Manifold Assault, see where that gets us. And then I do just think I have to slap away at that Blade Master myself. Just make sure they're taken care of. And let's get some more toxicity going. Trying to do some target selection here. 44 damage from this buddy. Seems like a lot, and it definitely isn't nothing, to say the very least. But Tentacled Monstrosity constricting us, dealing some more damage, might be a bit more of a critical situation. I do kind of want to reduce this to a true one-on-one fight instead of continuing to let them surround us to a minor degree here. Unfortunately, the wall wasn't quite big enough to stop them from just enveloping around it and coming to us. Ooh, and wasn't even thinking about you, Flayed Ghost. That's a bit of a pain in the butt. Well, we could try to beat a retreat ourselves. We could pop a teleport. We'd probably be fine for a couple rounds. Being a little stingy with my blink scrolls here. But I think that we're in a strong enough position here defensively to afford it, depending on where we end up here. And this is where things might start getting a bit more desperate. Unfortunately, this is just a bad spot. So I'm gonna instantly read another teleport. A gold dragon popping out of the woodwork. That's always fun. Let's hope that we don't chain ourselves into an infinite loop of horrible teleportations, hey? That might be nice. But again, should be good for the couple of turns it takes us to get that popped, and indeed does seem to be the case. So we can just head back to a stairway, heal up ourselves, and ideally, much like we're seeing here, we've shaken the hornet's nest. And so we're hoping that everyone will kind of go spreading out throughout the level, and it makes them a little easier to deal with. So we can just take them all, ideally one-on-one, but even in small batch files, as it were. Not too bad. So onwards we go, and let's see what else this treasure vault has in store for us, shall we? Definitely throw out some poison. Again, high evasion targets. The wasps themselves are also susceptible to poison, which you'd love to see. And that should be just about it. A much better situation to be fighting out of this time around, so you definitely love to see that. And perfect. I should be a bit more careful in general with the teleport loops, like we were just attempting there, because I have paid for that in the past, where sometimes you truly don't ever get lucky, and you keep getting teleported into just worse and worse situations in terms of survivability. But fortunately, second try today, not quite as bad. And what else do we find? Spellforge Servitor is an incredible spell in terms of mana efficiency here, so that might be one we want to pick up by the end game. We will have to see. Ah, right. I was being so cautious of that trap when we were last here, and then completely forgot about the necessity. But fortunately, we can kind of work this to our advantage by just bringing everyone out to us here, or at least a few people. Perfect. That should be a bit more manageable, and actually helps with the similar, or with a similar strategy to what I was mentioning before, where we're making a lot of noise and then causing enemies to come out of the woodwork towards us, which puts us in a slightly more defensible position, at least in this regard, or in this situation here. Rune Berserker among us. They're definitely one of the potential pains in the butt in late game here. For the most part, when you're facing off against a summoner, it's traded off by the fact that the summoner themselves is super easy to get rid of, but of course, Spriggan Berserkers, not so much with their high evasion. They can definitely last a lot longer than one might otherwise want.